What's up, Fit for the Kingdom family? It's your host, Graham here, and I am so excited for this episode, man. I've got my man, Adam Braud, on the podcast, and that is his last name. It is Bro, but it's spelled B-R-A-U-D. He's from Louisiana. He'll tell you what's going on with that. But Adam Braud, man, is a expert in the world of fitness and in the world of faith. That's kind of his thing. He's a voice in this space. He is an authority in this space. And I'm bringing him on today to talk to us a little bit about the idea of God's nutrition plan for your life. We've got fads, we've got diets, we've got all these information overload almost, it seems, in the world of nutrition and what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat and what's healthy and what's not healthy. And my man Adam has got it locked down. So I know that today is not only going to help you guys in the world of nutrition, but it's going to help you guys think better and have better faith in the fact that God has designed this world to be for us, right? From the food we eat to where we sleep to how we live our life, God designed it a certain way. There's an ecosystem that He's designed for us to live in. And if we can live in it, then we're going to thrive in it. And I can't wait for us to jump into today's episode. You can find Adam at a bunch of different places, but the main place is going to be his Instagram, which is going to be in the show notes. So make sure you go there to check out all the things that he has available for you. But why don't we go ahead and jump into this episode? All right, Adam, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. You doing okay?
Man, you know, if I were any better, I'd be you.
Liar.
I normally say if I were any better, I'd be twins, but
yeah, you don't want to be me, man.
I don't know about that. Maybe. I don't know. So update us, man. Tell the people who don't know you, pretend nobody knows you. Who are you? Where are you from? You know, who your mom and them, where you live, all that good stuff. Give us a lowdown.
Okay. So my name is Adam. I'm originally from Louisiana, so Baton Rouge area. So, but I live in Utah now for work reasons. My wife has a job here that required us to move. So I'm literally looking out at the mountains right now, and it's starting to snow. So let's just say all the hot sauce in my blood is not doing so good in the mountains. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no catfish around here. Ain't no ball shrimp. Ain't nothing. So, but yeah. So we moved here just a few months ago, and we're acclimating. But about myself, I've been married to my wife Kim for 23 years now. We have a daughter, Zoe. She's 13. Been in the ministry for a really long time, for almost 30 years now, in some form. I've pastored, been a missionary. But now this current season we find ourselves in is I do fitness. I have a coaching business where I work not exclusively, but primarily with people in the church, believers, people who come from a similar background as us, where you're trying to give your life to help other people and you know you have a call in your life, but maybe there's a struggle with either finding your health or continuing your health. So I've been in the fitness space since I was about 14 years old. You know, I started working out and just started learning, and the ministry has kind of melted into the two coming together. You know what I mean? So my goal in fitness is really to help people in the church stay healthy long enough to do the thing God's called them to do. Because the last thing you want to do is have to hang up the call because you just made some uninformed or purposeful mistakes because we refuse to change in some way or refuse to take responsibility for our health in some way. So, and health is a big umbrella. You know, we can talk about mental health and physical health, spiritual health, environmental health. So there's a lot there. But that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. And I work with different churches. I work with different ministries, coaching their staff to some extent. So we're doing our best to make a dent in this health epidemic, you know, because the church we're falling for the health problems just like everybody else. So there's no difference. We really are.
And you know, it's funny you say that, because that's where I first found you was I was interviewing at the church that I work at now, and that was my first staff meeting coming to the interview. Yep.
Really?
I was interviewing. I wasn't even on staff yet. I was just there.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I walk in, man, and as a guy who is very passionate about the fitness world, about being healthy and and about how that impacts everything, man. That was like, I remember looking at Amy going, this is it. This is where we're supposed to be right here, bro.
I love that, dude.
You're
That's
talking about
awesome.
fitness and staff meeting? Come on now.
Let's go, dude. But that's Josh too. Pastor Josh is very passionate about health, very passionate about discipline. And that shows in the health of the church. It shows in the health of his family and his own physical and mental health. So, I mean, he's a living example of everything we're talking about right now. So shout out Pastor Josh.
You know, if he's listening, yes, absolutely. No, man. And I appreciate you jumping on though.
Of course.
You know, I'm thinking about this episode is going to release right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Before the gluttony begins.
Right. Before all the bad decisions come in and yeah. And here's my thing. I don't know if balance necessarily, but I'm about grace, right? So to a degree, right? So we live in this 90-10, 85-15 rule where 90% of the time make the right decisions, do the right things, try to be right on. And then 10% of the time, eat the pumpkin pie, do the things, you know, stuff like that. Obviously, if you're able, but I know going into this season, there can be a lot of, it's a tug of war, man. And a lot of there's a lot of people, man, who make the one mistake or they don't set themselves up right. They make the right decision when it comes to nutrition, that they're going to have an issue. And that's kind of the topic I want to talk about with you today, man, is, you know, we have all kinds of different, like you said, health is a big umbrella. Fitness is a big umbrella. And we could be talking about all kinds of things. And I think they intertwine a little bit, but we're going to get into, in just a minute, we're going to get into what I think I'm calling God's nutrition plan. And it's kind of what you talked about in that first staff meeting that was in, how he's got an ecosystem and he's prepared all these things. And I want to do that because I think, especially in the holidays, because what happens is they may not make the decision now, but you go through the holidays and let's say you don't do necessarily the best when it comes to your eating, and your whatever that definition is for the person. You're going to come out on the other side. And a lot of times we make some weird decisions based off of what information is available to us, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of fads. There's a lot of diets out there. There's a lot of crazies. There's meds. There's shortcuts. Everybody's got their opinion on how this stuff works. And if we're not careful, we fall for some stuff that doesn't set us up for long-term like success, right?
Of course.
And so now, however, before we jump into that part.
Okay, here we go.
I have an icebreaker.
Okay, let's go.
And it's so stupid, but it's going to be good. Okay. Have you ever seen those Canadian geese? The ones that are like super big and there's like 1,000 of them.
Yep.
Yeah. They migrate down during the wintertime because it's warmer here. Okay. They're mean. They're the meanest animals on the planet.
And they poop everywhere.
And they poop everywhere. My goodness. and they're endangered. You can't even like run into them. You know, like they're on the road. They're slowing everything down. Okay. So pretend you got 100 of those jokers.
Okay.
And then on this side, you got 100 raccoons and half of them have rabies. So 50 of them have rabies. And you have one option. You can either fight the 100 geese or you can fight the half infested 100 rabies infested raccoons. Which ones are you fighting and how are you going to do it?
Okay. So I'm probably going to fight the geese.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason is because I have fought a raccoon before.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And a raccoon has like a hood switch. Like they have like a hood switch, bro. They'll be like sweet and nice and digging your trash, but bruh, you corner one of those bad boys and it just turns gangster. Like I'm not playing, bro. Like terrifying. So they call them trash pandas and all this other stuff, but and if they got rabies, now I'm getting infected. Now I'm good. Geese, they ain't got no teeth. They don't got no claws. They got a long neck. I'm grabbing and I'm swinging, and then I'm hitting the other ones with the one I got. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking efficiency here. So, and then there's poop everywhere. So you're probably slipping and stuff. I'm probably landing on a few of them. So yeah, dude, I think I could take 100 geese. No problem, dude.
I love how seriously you answer that question. I'm over here dying.
No, dude, I'm serious. Like I would legit go to town on them geese because they're always they're pooping on everything. They're chasing you. You just going for a walk and they're chasing you? I'm like,
nah, man, we're out. All right, but we can't move forward until you tell us about this raccoon you fought.
it was in my backyard, and it got in my backyard somehow. And I had a dog at the time that was like, she was a young pup. She was a younger pup, but she was a hound dog. So she wanted to corner this thing. So I had to protect the dog from getting beat up by the raccoon. So I'm over here like trying to get the raccoon out the yard, and it's just going nuts. It's hissing and clawing and spitting. I'm kicking it. I'm just putting the boot to it, and it didn't even phase it. I'm serious. Like, seriously, I was going to punt it, but there was no way. That ball was biting. So that's awesome. I ended up just like cornering it enough, kicking it, and then opening the fence and letting it go. But
nice.
Let's just say nobody died, but we all had a healthy respect for one another after that. You know what I'm saying? So
that's fantastic.
Raccoons, dude.
That question went way better than I thought it was. That's fantastic.
Well, I'm in, dude. If it's creative thinking and creative problem solving, I'm in.
You're in. Well, there you guys go. If that doesn't give this man credibility to answer all the questions we are coming later, I don't know what does. Brad, not only can he help you on your fitness journey, not only has he been in ministry and his insight, he can and will teach you how to fight a raccoon. And
the finer points. The finer points of fighting nuisance animals.
Yeah, right. I think the way that you were going to approach the geese fight was good too. Like, take one, whip it around like
100%, dude. Look, it's just dead weight at that point, bro. And I'm just, because those jokers weigh like 15, 20 pounds. I got to take a couple out with one. I'm good.
And this is why you have to be physically fit, because if you're physically fit, you can easily handle.
You can't gas out while smoking these geese, bro.
That's right. 15, 20 pounds ain't nothing.
No,
you got the cardio endurance.
That's just.
You ate a healthy breakfast that morning. You're feeling good.
Protein forward breakfast. Got a little coffee in me.
Let's
ready for a fight.
That's awesome. All right, now let's get to business here. All right, that was good. So let's talk about nutrition a little bit. You mentioned so when we had our staff meeting that one time, then I wasn't even on staff yet, and you spoke about a lot. But I remember one in particular thing that stuck out to me was you said this statement: if it's in God's ecosystem, probably eat it. If it's not in God's ecosystem or not from God's ecosystem, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so the conversation today is kind of be wrapped around that, because again, fads, diets, shortcuts, medicines, you name it, influencers out there trying to give all kinds of information on how do we get healthy. And I'm a big believer that what you put in your body is going to determine what you get out of your body.
Absolutely.
And so speaking of that, tell us, give me the synopsis of this idea that God has a nutrition plan. We've got all these fads, we've got all these options, but God ultimately has to have something, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is to realize the Bible's not a diet book, right? It's not a diet book. The Bible is written to tell one story and one story only, and that's God's love for man and his redemption for man through Jesus. So what we can take from it is principles. We can take ideas, things that orient us maybe towards the wisdom that God would have put in the earth when he created it. So, like the Bible in Proverbs chapter 8 talks about how wisdom was with him when he created the foundations of the world. So there's wisdom all around us. So sometimes it just takes a little creative thinking. I used that whole ecosystem thought as a framework to try to help people know the possible boundaries for what would be an okay thing to eat and what's probably not the best decision. So when we think about nutrition, the big thing is to realize from a science point of view, there's very little that science is very certain about when it comes to nutrition. Certain, like we're very certain about gravity. We're very certain about, certain things in chemistry. But when it comes to nutritional sciences, there's a lot of loose possibility there. Yeah. And then it's confounded with money and all this other stuff. So, but when I was talking about this ecosystem thought, it was, if we look at the scriptures and we look at like Genesis chapter, God, the first book, the first chapters of Genesis up until about Genesis 5, you see God creating this system, right?
Yeah.
And he creates this entire system, which is planet Earth.
Right.
And then the last thing he does is he places a man right in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. So the thought that came to me was, God has created a system for us to live within. Mm-hmm. So if we can do our best to stay within the boundaries of that system, chances are we're going to operate a little bit better than if we're always trying to push the boundaries.
Right.
And those boundaries are, we have the sky above us and we have the soil beneath us, right? So we have these two boundaries. Everything that grows, lives, and thrives within those boundaries is probably pretty good to eat, right? So we've got fish in the sea. We've got cows on the earth. We got pigs out in the field. Like I'm looking right now, there's some Black Angus right out there. And I see hamburger. I see sausage. I see, I see chili. So, and then we've got trees, we've got plants, right. And we've got, basic fruits and vegetables, all that stuff. So if you really think about it, if you eat most things that are within those boundaries, there's somewhere between. I tell people, if it grew out of the ground, came off a tree, walked on the earth, or swam in the sea, you're probably pretty safe to eat it.
That's good.
Right? But it's when we get outside those boundaries, when we start getting the food like manufacturing, we start getting into ultra processed foods, packaging foods, stuff like that. That's when things start taking a turn, right? So those things were not within the boundaries when God created us, right? Those things were they weren't even a thought, right? It took humans creating food manufacturing, and then along with capitalism and everything else, all these other systems that we created,
right,
which are now we're seeing, the problematic downfall of, there's a reason why people are trying to say, make America healthy again. Like there's a reason for that. It's not because we're conspiratorial. It's because 72% of people in America are either overweight or obese. Mm-hmm. Probably roughly 90% of people are metabolically unhealthy in some way. So it's not a conspiracy when we look at the real data. So, so when we look inside this ecosystem, and then we can talk more about that, but those are the rough boundaries, those are the rough boundaries that we find do pretty well for people. Like most people do pretty good within those boundaries.
Yeah. And you tell me this, cause obviously you coached a lot of people. Would you find that just that shift from getting out of the aisles of the grocery store to the edges, getting to the ecosystem, I mean, what would you say that like just that shift does for people?
Well, first of all, like let's take a couple things into account here. There's a few things we know really good. We know pretty certain about food. Yeah. Don't eat too much and not too little.
That's good.
Right? Make sure you're getting plenty of protein. So that's amino acids. Those are essential amino acids. Get plenty of fatty acids, which are like your omega-3s, omega-6, omega-9s, all these things that are essential. And then, make sure that you are avoiding poisons and other pathogens like lead, mercury, and things that we know are not good for humans. Okay.
Right.
So those are the few things that we can really be certain about. So if we talk about not eating too much, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, we have to contend with the fact that I'm hungry. I have this natural drive to eat.
Yeah.
But then depending on what I choose to eat can affect my hunger, right?
Yeah.
So we know that the more processed a food is, the more calories it has per serving, and the less satisfying it is. That's why you can eat a bag of Doritos, like 2,000 calories in Doritos, and be like, you know what? I'm kind of snacky. like
Yep.
you're like, how did I just eat that many calories, but I'm still not full?
Yep.
Because the more you process a food, the more fake a food is,
Yeah.
the more calories it is. So by not eating too much, so by staying on the aisle, the outside of the grocery store, shifting to more of like a animal products, lots of good animal products, lots of fruits, lots of veggies, potatoes, some rice, some, some starches here and there. You immediately take down the number of calories you get per serving, and you increase the amount of satiety, the amount of fullness you get out of it. So immediately, by just making that shift, it becomes really difficult to overeat.
Yeah, it's good.
You know what I mean?
No, it's good. Yeah.
And then by, most people don't have
that problem.
What's that?
Overeating. Most people have the overeating problem.
Yeah, most of us have the overeating problem. And the reason is because when we eat so much processed food and we don't focus on like sleep and these other areas, we have like our hunger cues are just off. Like we're out of sync.
Yeah.
So making just that one shift to go from like, hey, rather than I'm eating, Triscuit crackers with squeezed cheese or, whatever gross canned cheese you can get, rather than eating that, why don't you actually have an actual piece of cheese,
right?
Like cheddar cheese or Parmesan cheese, and put that with some type of, tomato, olive oil vinegar, something like that, something beautiful that tastes great. You're going to be much more fulfilled after eating that than eating some trash. So the idea that God made food for us that fits us, but then man made food that is delicious and palatable, but does not give us nutrients. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure we're fueling ourselves well with real nutrition. Otherwise, the body's starving and will continue to drive you to eat more because you're not getting the basic building blocks you need in order to be healthy. Because your body's number one code is to keep you alive.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So
that's, and I asked that because I found that to be true for me. I did macro counting, if it fits, eat it. I did all that stuff, but I really found out and got in tune with the things like the way things make my body feel when I got down to single ingredient foods. And the way I did it, and I don't recommend this for everybody, but it did work for me, is I went straight carnivore for 4 weeks.
Wow.
Like I didn't just cut everything and go carnivore. I backed everything off because I didn't want to have the flu or whatever, the keto flu or whatever. And I didn't get it, but I went straight carnivore for 4 weeks. And if it was basically animal based, if it came from an animal, I ate it. If it wasn't from an animal, didn't eat it.
Yeah.
And what that did, man, is and then I slowly added some stuff back in, sweet potatoes, fruit, stuff like that. But what it did though, is it told me what doesn't work and what does work and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And really just, I became aware, because when I eat something processed now, it is like this last week we did staff retreat, and just due to the place that we went to had great food. And Pastor Josh, we're about getting some good food, and so it was good food. The breakfast was, farm to table. I mean, we were on a random farm in the middle of nowhere. So it was like everything came from where we were. So it was really good.
That's awesome.
Sourdough bread, stuff like that. But even then, just in the changing of what I normally eat and adding in, because we had treats, you had a cookie here, all that stuff. It's like, you feel it, like I'm going, like, it's an immediate, like, oh man, this feels different. And I can eat 17 of these cookies. I don't know why.
Delicious. I'll take 45.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was rough in that nature, but at the same time, you're going, it didn't, and this is weird, and you can maybe speak to this, but because I had went to this whole single non-processed, single ingredient food, that knowing that, like that feeling and knowing what it felt like to not have whatever's going on in there has just driven me for, like, we're back from being back last week. And today it's been nothing for me to just go right back to my normal way of eating and single ingredient foods, whole foods, things like that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think one thing is we get uh, humans are adaptable. Like one of the things we do really well is we adapt to anything,
Mm.
right? Like if you sit on the couch a lot, you get better at sitting on the couch, right?
That's real.
That's why, like,
Yeah.
if you run a lot, you get better at running. You
It's
lift
good.
weights, you get better at lifting weights. The human body is an adaptation machine. Like that is what it is. So the more you expose it to things that are maybe not great for you, the more those things become normal, right?
Yeah.
That's why some people are like, I hate water. Like, you hate water? You can't drink water? Like, it doesn't taste good to me. Well, that's a sign of somebody's palate who is always only eating salty, sweet,
Yeah.
overly processed things because now a normal palate no longer exists for them.
Yeah.
So you basically got so used to feeling like poop
Yeah.
that it didn't feel like it felt normal to you, right? So
Yeah.
then when you go to something like a carnivore, which I'm not advocating that for everybody. When it comes to diets, diets are tools,
Yeah.
right? Diets are not ideology. It's not part of your Instagram handle.
Yeah.
It's not who you are. It is literally a way of approaching life. That's
Yeah.
all it is. But something like a carnivore diet or an animal-based diet, what it does is it so drastically resets your taste buds, so drastically
Yeah.
resets your normal feelings of digestion. Like you get used to going to the bathroom at the right times
Yeah.
regularly. You're not gassy, you're not bloating, right? All these other signs that your body's trying to show you,
Yeah.
you start becoming more sensitive to those things again.
Yep.
So then when you re-enter kind of normal life with other people,
Yep.
you're just you're offset just enough to be like, okay, I'm sensitive enough that I can take this feedback and I can
Yep.
actually use it,
Yep.
right? Like I don't eat beans, bro. I grew up in Louisiana, red beans
Yeah.
and rice,
All the time.
navy, like field peas,
Yeah.
white beans. I don't eat beans now, bro, because I did the same type of reset, like
Yeah.
kind of animal based paleo flow for a long time.
Yeah.
Bro, if I eat beans, your boy, I'm blowing the house apart, right?
Yep.
And having gas is not a sign of fun times.
No.
When you're a boy, farting is fun.
Yeah.
But when you're a grown man and you're walking around, you're farting all the time, that's a sign that your digestion is
It's off.
irritated.
Yep.
It's irritated, and you put something in there that is causing a reaction. So I don't eat those things anymore because I don't
Acidity.
want that reaction.
Yep.
So I think what you're stating is very common
Yeah.
where people say, you know what, I'm just going to dive into this thing and I'm going to reset. And then you come back and you start a new normal,
Yeah.
right? Normal used to be you could eat anything. My dad, I'd never have problems. But then you reset things and you're like, wait,
You
I was
realize
having problems.
I was living in a problem.
Yes. So I think I think we need to start paying attention to what we consider normal
Yeah.
when it comes to food and realize like people who like I have people tell me all the time like, oh, you're gonna have a heart attack from all those eggs you're eating.
Yeah.
Like
I eat
people
so many eggs.
like if I tell people like I ate 5 eggs this morning, people are like people will all of a sudden be concerned for my
Yeah.
health. But
Yeah.
nobody's concerned. People think I'm healthy when I'm eating maple oatmeal with brown sugar and bananas on top. And basically I'm getting 600 calories of carbohydrates in,
Right.
which may or may not be healthy,
Right.
but I can guarantee you it's not helping your diabetes.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like
Nobody
what we
says anything
consider
when you eat a
healthy
bag
is
of
very
Doritos.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But what we consider healthy has gotten so skewed
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
need to reset.
There was something that came out not too long ago, maybe 2020, 2021, where they talked about Lucky Charms being healthier than steak and eggs. I think it's the
Well,
FDA.
oh,
I'll be honest with you, it was the FDA. But I
yeah, no, it
remember
is.
going, okay,
That's true.
what are we grading this on though? You know, like you talk
Who's
about
paying
health
the
being
bills?
different.
That's what you're grading it on, right? Like,
We're gonna call this the conspiracy of the FDA. No, I'm kidding. But it's serious. Like what
no,
it
it's
like but that's
100%
the
true though.
information. But that's the information people are getting. So like speak to that too, because I get that all the time. Like obviously when I still eat a
Full
very low,
carnivore,
as
yeah.
a CrossFitter, I still eat a very low carbohydrate diet,
Sure.
which people think is very strange, but it works for me.
Sure.
And I eat a ton of eggs, bro. Like I buy 3 18-count cartons every single week, and I go through basically all of them by myself.
I can go through 60 eggs in a week, easy.
Easy, man. And people are like, Graham, but what about my dad? What about your cholesterol? What about, like, he just goes into those things. So speak to some of that, because I think there is a misconception about what's healthy and what's not healthy. And I think your ecosystem talk is probably the best, but talk to that a little bit, because that is a thing.
Yeah. Well, one, we need to realize that, we need to step back and have some objective view of how things are. People have been parroting that same advice for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Eggs are unhealthy. Steak is bad for you, causes cancer. Eggs and cholesterol, you're going to have a heart attack. Well, the number of eggs and the amount of steak, beef in general, that Americans eat is down by more than 50%. But heart attacks are up exponentially. So heart attacks are still the number one killer of people in America.
Wow.
So obviously, if we're eating less eggs and steak, and we're still having 800,000 people a year die from heart disease, well, then obviously it's not the thing we've been pointing at. It's something else.
Yeah.
So that's when it just takes you stepping back a little bit and objectively looking at things. Now, most people don't know those numbers. Most people don't. They just know that the doctor said, I need to eat low fat and I need to do that. So that's fine. What we have, though, is a corruption of the system in a sense. And we need to realize most doctors receive absolutely zero nutritional training when they're in medical school. Like not 1 hour, not one credit, not one class. Most of them don't receive any. So it's negligent to take advice from somebody who's a completely uninformed person about this type of diet. But anyway, so one of the things that should help you is the old adage that stands pretty true. If your great grandmother would have eaten it, chances are it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was before food processing came in. That was before we started having people pay off doctors to push certain medications, push certain diet trends. Right. So when they came up with the whole idea that saturated fat causes heart disease, well, the Ansel Keys, the doctor who postulated that and pushed the heart saturated fat cholesterol heart hypothesis, he was paid off by the sugar industry, $50,000 to point away from sugar and point towards saturated fat. Okay, so the real culprit here is not foods that humans have been eating for thousands of years. The real culprit is the foods that we have been introducing in the last 100 years. Those are the real things. Okay. So we need to kind of step back and think objectively about the human being, where we fit within the planet, within the ecosystem, and think logically, is it better to eat an egg for breakfast or a multi-grain cereal bar that's got a bunch of seed oils in it that never existed before? It's got a bunch of sugar in it that was never possible to have before. And it's got processed grains in it that have to go through certain chemicalizations and everything else in order to even be edible. So we just have to step back a little bit and start thinking objectively about our health and where we want to be. So
I like what you said about doctors. Not that they're uninformed overall, just
some are great.
They may have done their own research, but for the most part, the vast majority are still living in a mindset that they got a long time ago. And it wasn't from something they studied. It was just like us, from something that they heard.
Yes.
I'm not saying doctors are trained to do what they do. Obviously.
We love doctors.
I love them. But like my dad does that all the time. Well, my doctor said this, and I'm going, yeah, but did you ask him where he got the information? Does he know how you were eating before that? Did
Yeah.
he know? Did he know those things, right? And so a lot of times they don't, and I think that's why. But I like what you're saying is we got to back up and do our own research. It's really just like when you're reading the Bible. A good pastor will tell you, don't just take my word for it when I'm preaching on Sunday. Like, go home, read it for yourself, study it for yourself,
Absolutely.
look it up for yourself. And we got to do the same thing in our nutrition, like in the way we
Yeah.
eat. We got to take a step back and go, okay, maybe the way I've been thinking about this isn't right. And that's okay. Because if it
Yeah.
is, then we're good. But if it isn't, then I just get to find out what is right and we move forward.
Yeah.
And so in thinking about all that, right, there's a lot of information coming in. We have, and we're going to speak to a couple of them because I want to.
Yeah.
We talked about a little bit of the fad diets. You hit the carnivore. I like what you said. Is it's just a way to reset, and I like
Sure.
I think all that is right. That's all that is. Keto, all that stuff is just a way to reset, and I think that's good. And I think that's the way we got to think about it. But then we got some stuff, and this is a big one right now, and it is the medications, right? The Ozempics,
Yeah.
semaglutide, right? All that stuff that's coming in, and I don't know what you know about it, but speak if you had an opinion on that. Speak to that. Speak to why you wouldn't, why you would. What's your thoughts in that world?
Okay. Well, so those medications typically are what's called a GLP-1 agonist. So basically, they basically will occupy certain receptors to make you feel full, so that you just basically just don't have as much appetite. Okay.
Yep.
So basically, it's a medicated form of fasting.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is. And there's a lot of push and pull on this. Technically, these medications could end obesity. Like on a grand scale, they could.
Right.
The problem is that many people who are taking them are uninformed about, one, how the body works,
Yeah.
side effects, possibilities there. And then you have doctors who are making huge amounts of money off of this. And I'm not just incriminating doctors, but there is a huge financial incentive to push these things and make it easy for people. So I actually have clients on some of these medications, and at my recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're using it as a tool. We're not using it as a magic pill.
It's good.
All right. So what the research actually shows is the average person who's on Ozempic, Wegovy, semaglutide, what ends up happening is because they don't understand how to mitigate some of the side effects, they end up actually worse off metabolically than they were when they were overweight. All right. Because what happens is if you're not, the body, okay, so the body has to have amino acids.
Yeah.
It has to have amino acids. And it has to have a minimal amount of amino acids to make sure certain things are functioning, like your organs, your hair, your eyeballs, like your muscles, your bone density.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to just not eat and be okay. Right. Certain things there's trade-offs for all this stuff.
Right.
So if you are not ingesting enough amino acids in the form of protein, your body is going to hit those levels it needs, and it's going to get them from somewhere. And the first place it's going to take them is your muscle mass.
Right.
Okay. And then muscle mass is a metabolic system. So what happens is you have all these people who just want to lose weight. And what they end up doing is they lose mostly muscle mass and a lot of fat.
Right.
So what happens is you got smaller, but your metabolism got worse because now you have less muscle mass, which muscle mass is very metabolically active. It also is the number one place to store blood glucose, blood sugar. So now you have a smaller sink to store your blood sugar in. You're weaker, your bone density is weaker, and you're going to, when you get off the shot, you're going to gain that weight back even faster because you don't have the metabolic system of the muscle mass to help you. So you end up in a really worse place. Now, if you work with a coach or a doctor who understands these things, they're going to insist that when you do eat, protein is the priority.
It's good.
And then you have to resistance train because you have to send the signal for the body to make and maintain muscle mass so that the weight you lose is mostly fat, not a giant combination of muscle and fat. That's why you see people who, like celebrities who you can tell have been on Ozempic, they just look like they got really skinny and saggy. Their skin got saggy. Right. And you're like, they got that Zimpy face, right? That Ozzy face. So, but they just look kind of more skeleton-like. And they aged really fast. So it's because the muscle mass is gone now. So all the elasticity in the skin is leaving. So it is a tool to be used in a moderate way, right? So like I have clients who are on a carnivore diet, they're lifelong diabetics, type 2 diabetics. They're on a carnivore diet to keep the glucose low.
It's good.
And then when metabolically the glucose was still not low enough to be within healthy ranges, they're on a minimal dose of Mounjaro, which is a similar drug that helps to control blood glucose a little better. And now all their numbers are in the right place. Okay. Where you have other people who are just taking it because they don't have the discipline. Or they want the shortcut. So a lot of people are using it as a shortcut, which is just a poor mentality. And all you're really doing is you're shortening your lifespan and your health span. That's all you're really doing. So they are very powerful drugs. They can be used with great effect to really help people, but they have to be used responsibly and in the hands of people who know how to help you. So if somebody was going to, like, I've had friends call me and say, should I be on this? And I'm like, well, you need to get these other things in line first.
It's good.
You need to start working out. You need to get the habit of working out. You need to start changing your diet to the best of your ability. And then if you hit a stall, then you take a minimal dose of semaglutide or whatever. But you keep those habits in place. That way you end up healthy, not worse.
Right.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
No, well, E.C. Sinkowski, you know who that is? Have you ever listened to her before? She's in the CrossFit space. I think she's from CrossFit New England, which is up there with Ben Bergeron.
That dude's a beast.
Bro. And we love him too, man. But she's from that world. She has a podcast, but she has this give it a shot bucket is what she calls when it comes to stuff like supplements and things like that, medication. Her thing is if you've tried everything and you're doing everything and your nutrition is dialed in and your habits are there and you're working out and you're sleeping good and like everything is dialed in, then this is worth giving a shot if you can't get any further. So I feel like that's what you're saying. Does that sound?
Yeah.
That sounds,
The thing is like, I don't know if you ever listen to Lane Norton. So Lane's a little rough around the edges sometimes. He can be a bit of a turd. But I like what he says. He says there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. Okay. So people are looking for like a free pass to do something. There's nothing free. There's no solutions that come without side effects. There's just trade-offs, right? So we have to always think, if I'm going to do this, what's it going to cost me and what do I have to give up? Right? So if I'm going to take the medication, what's it going to cost me? Okay. And what do I need to do to mitigate some of those costs? Right. So we're always thinking in terms of how am I getting better, not how am I cheating the system.
That's good.
Right.
No,
so you're never going to cheat the system. Your body's too smart.
Yeah. It's like you said, eventually some trade-off's going to happen. And
exactly.
And I would agree. And I appreciate the way you answered, because I feel the same way. I think everything can be used as a tool to get you where you want to be. But it comes down to, like, one of my favorite books in the whole world is Atomic Habits. And we teach it in Leadership Academy every year, and and I read it every year for that reason. And it's just a really good book because it reminds you that, like, you're never going to do the things you want to do until you become the person that does those things. And so it's like, if you want to lose weight, like, if that's the goal, let's do the things that people who lose weight do. And let's just slowly become that type of person. And then start to add the things in. And I like that. I appreciate that answer too.
I
Because
agree.
it is a good tool. And I think there's people who genuinely need it and
Yep.
and it'll help them, but you need to have the people around you to help
Exactly.
you do that. My last question would be this. Obviously, this episode is going to drop the Monday before Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and which is obviously on purpose, because going into seasons like Thanksgiving and Christmas, we are presented with what is normal eating. And I'll say this though, I will say this, in most cases in my situation, the food that we're making on a Thanksgiving and a Christmas, for the most part, like maybe taking the pumpkin pie out and some of those other crazy things. But for the most part, this is like the first time anybody's really eaten something that's been cooked. Everything has been like heated up, right? So there's a little bit of that there. But you're going in these seasons, you got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, and you got all these holiday things that are going on. And you got somebody who's saying, hey, I really want to dial in. I want to dial in here. I want to get better at this. Like I want to eat out of God's ecosystem, but I'm about to be surrounded and I can't not go to my family gatherings.
Sure.
Can't not go to the staff Christmas party. I can't not do those things. What are some practical things that you would tell that time? Like maybe they're your client. What would you tell them? Hey, going into this season, what's their mindset need to be? And what are some practical things they can do to ensure that they enjoy the holiday?
Yeah.
But they don't fall off the train or eat, I have a guy that I follow, he says, eat like a butthole, right? They don't, they don't,
He says it another way.
He does. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? But like, don't swing the pendulum. Don't be so stickler that you're not going to enjoy the holiday either. So what would you say to somebody like that?
Well, one, everybody battles with it, right? Because everybody's got to eat and everybody likes being around their people in some form, right? So the unfortunate thing is we tend to celebrate with things that tend to not be the best for us. Right. So I usually say, one, you need to know what kind of person you are. Like you need to know is just the very idea of being at Thanksgiving, does it just send you into this kind of no holds barred kind of thinking?
Yeah.
Or are you the kind of person who's like, yeah, man, I mean, I can sample some stuff, because you got people who are abstainers and you got people who are moderators, right? Like I'm a moderator. Right. Look, man, I can take it or leave it. I can eat the cheesecake, but I don't need to bathe in the cheesecake. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just a moderator. Some people have to be abstainers. So I think one, knowing how you react to these environments is a big deal. And then having a plan that fits what you want to do.
It's good.
Having a plan makes a difference. Like if you're going to your family and you know your family, it's going to be everything's fried, everything's, bathed in butter, which butter's not bad for you. But if you're swimming in it, then, the calories are through the roof. Right. There's pie everywhere. There's not a vegetable in sight. You know what I mean? Like, if you know this is the case, one thing I tell people is, bro, eat before you go.
Yeah, that's good.
Eat a meal at your house. Like I had a buddy text me. He said, hey, I'm going to like this certain Christmas party. He just like not Christmas party. He's going to some staff deal. Yeah. And he was like, there's only like pasta and bread there. He said, I'm eating a steak before I go.
Hey.
Right. So he smashed like a steak before he went. Not that you have to eat a steak, but he just made a plan beforehand. So I say have a plan. Yeah. And then when you are in that environment, you have to have the mindset that you never truly let go. Like you never just let go, because when we do that, it's very difficult to recover from that. Yeah. So you can loosen your grip a little bit, but you just can't let go. So I say when you do eat, make sure you fill up on protein first. Make sure your plate looks like this. Half of it is protein. So that might be your ham and your turkey. There might be some other meats in there that you're eating. Yeah. And then make sure you have a vegetable. Is another quarter. And then something that you really want, like sweet potato pie or sweet, my mom makes, the sweet potato casserole. Yeah. Right. Which is basically just brown sugar on top of sweet potatoes, and marshmallows, but I love it. Yep. So I make sure that it's a smaller piece. So I get to taste it. I get to enjoy it. Right. But I'm not like, I'm not going crazy. So exactly. Yeah. So the big thing is know how you react, make a plan, And when you're
That's
in
good.
the environment, make a plan too. I'm like, if you don't want to overeat, drink a glass of water before you eat.
It's good, man.
Right? Like, just have a plan. Working out on the day you know you're going to overeat is a big
Yep.
deal too. So if exercise is an option, then like I'll go to my sister-in-law's and they don't have a place to work out, so I'll go for a walk and I'll bang out as many push-ups as I can in like
Yeah.
5 or 6 sets to make sure that I'm burning some calories, I'm creating some insulin sensitivity,
Yeah.
I'm earning some calories in a sense,
Yeah.
so that when I do kind of go overboard with the chocolate pie or whatever, if I
It's
do,
all right.
then it's much less damaging than if I just was sitting on the couch all day watching football,
Right.
unbuckled my pants just enough to get up and then go get pie and sit back down, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are two very different environments.
It's
So
good, man.
how you approach the environment is a real big deal, right?
Yeah.
And if your family's going to make fun of you for working out, who cares?
Yeah.
They make fun of you anyway. They're your family. You know what I mean? So that's just how it
Yeah.
goes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, man, I
So
like that. That's good.
yeah, have a plan, man. Have a plan, have a
Yeah.
strategy, and don't wait till January 1st to start.
Yeah.
Start now. Like,
That.
start
Yeah,
now.
I'll say that's probably been for me one of the biggest things for me is when I did start. I remember it. It was on a random October in like 2017 or 16 or something like that.
I
When
love
first
that.
started CrossFit. It wasn't like oh, I'm gonna wait till the holidays are over. I was just like one day, like, I'm going to the gym tomorrow, and I just did. I just went, and it was like.
Yeah.
And so when people ask me like, Graham, how did you do it? I was like, I didn't give myself enough time to get out.
Yes.
I gave myself enough time to plan, and then I went and I did it. And
Yeah,
so
action is
I tend to do that
required.
with everything. Right. And I tend to do that with everything. So when I decided to do carnivore, it was a day. Like somebody talked about the way they were doing it, and I thought, I'm going to try that. And so the next day I started cutting carbs out. It took 4 days. I was out of carbs, and I went animal-based for 4 weeks. And so since then I've added in and I've had treats and I've done my thing, but it has become I love what you're saying, though, is have a plan. And then I would say on that too is make sure your plan's realistic, because a lot of the times we go in and go, well, my plan is I'm just not going to break it all. And you're going, come on, Susan, you know better than that.
Yeah.
You know better
You're going to
than
have that pie, Susan.
Yeah. Well, and so go in knowing I'm going to have a slice of pie. And when I do, if I go in there and go, like I know when I go to my family's house for Thanksgiving, I'm going to eat the pumpkin pie. I love it. It's my favorite thing that my mother-in-law makes. I learned how to make it because I love it so much. But so I know I'm going to go and have some. So I'm going into it knowing so that I don't feel bad after. Like I know, like, and I'm going to get to
because you're an adult.
Right. And then
I'm
guess
an
what I'm
adult.
going to do the next day?
I can eat
We're just
how I
going to
want.
kick it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea too, but also like, I like when you say, if you're going to go into these environments, you don't go into them thinking like losing sight of the rest of the year. It's one day. It's basically one meal.
Yeah.
Christmas and Thanksgiving is 2 meals out of 8 weeks. But most people gain starting in Thanksgiving, they gain about 6 or 7 pounds, and then they hold on to that for the next year. And then they just keep doing that every year. So just keep it in perspective. It's just one meal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And if you do go overboard, then you get right back on track the next day.
Yeah.
You don't sulk. You don't get into loathing. You don't talk bad to yourself. You just go in the gym, man. Lift some weights. Put all them calories to use.
I had there's a coach at our gym. He does nutrition mainly. He said something to me a long time ago that really helped. He said, you want to look at your nutrition from a weekly standpoint, not just a daily standpoint. He said, if you do that, bro, it changes everything. And I went, what do you mean? He goes, let's say you overeat on carbs today. Like, let's say you're counting macros, you overeat on your carbs today. So, well, then for the next 3 days of the week, just take that number, divide it by 3, and take it out. He says, guess what? You're not cutting much out. So you're not punishing yourself. You're just doing the math. And you start doing that, man, game changer. So if you do that, like what you're saying is Thanksgiving, one meal, say you overeat on the one meal, well, then the next 3-4 days of the week, just take out a little bit of each thing.
Just dial it back.
Yeah, no big deal. And then go to the gym. And I think I love what you're saying is you go in with a plan and then you come out of it knowing, hey, even if the plan fails, we just start again tomorrow. No big deal.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do it all over again. It didn't change who you were because you decided to eat more than one slice.
Exactly. Now that's not a reason to go in and just go hog wild.
Go ham. No.
But just realize, man, you're an adult. There are ways to fix everything. There are ways to do it. But, the big thing is to keep things in perspective. Make sure you know what kind of person you want to be, and do your best in the environment that you can.
And in the world of, like, let's say peer pressure, obviously, because when you go to the social environments, there's a little bit of that there. Obviously, like you had mentioned, if your family makes fun of you, whatever, they're your family, they're going to make fun of you anyway. What would you say to somebody going in, like, say, hey, well, they're going to laugh, or they're going to make fun of me, or whatever. Like, what would you say to somebody like that? Just real quick. I just thought that was something.
I can be ruthless with my family, right? Like, I'll be like, well, that's why I look the way I do, and you look the way you do. You know what I mean? But don't say that to your mom, But
be selective to the family member that you say that one to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody that you can wrestle with, like your brother or somebody, But the big thing is to realize no one who criticizes you is criticizing you.
Yeah.
They're criticizing themselves.
Man, that's
right?
good, Adam.
So have a sense of compassion rather than a sense of offense.
That's good.
Right? Like if somebody's saying, why aren't you eating, why are you eating like a bird? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Just say, I'm just not that hungry. I would rather just hang out with everybody. I'm just not that hungry. And realize that they're not asking that because you're doing something wrong. They're asking that because they feel wrong inside themselves in some form. So it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with what you're eating. It has nothing to do. You're not making anybody feel some type of way.
Yeah.
You're just doing your thing, and then people are projecting.
Yep.
So I get made fun of all the time by my family. They're like, oh, I guess you're going to work out today. And I'm like, absolutely, because that's the person I am.
And that's I work out every day.
Yeah, I work out. I don't care what day. I don't care if Santa's here. If Santa could be in the house and I'm going to catch a pump. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going. It's chest day, bro. Santa's hitting chest with me. You know what I mean? Or whatever, So, so the big thing is just keep it in perspective. Don't take it personally. And just keep doing what you're planning on doing, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do for yourself is going to benefit you and benefit that person in the long run. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Adam, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and talking about all this, man. It's been a good time.
I love it.
I'll say before we go, Adam, you got a lot of stuff you do, man. You have a podcast, obviously, and you guys should go subscribe, and I'm going to put that in the show notes.
I love it.
And we'll put tell us what your Instagram handle is. Where can people find you and all the stuff that you offer? Obviously, you do coaching, you do all that stuff. Tell us where they can find you.
Instagram is probably the biggest hub of my information. So if you just go to, at Adam Braud, Braud, that'll be in the notes too. I'm sure you see how it's spelled. I'm from Louisiana. We don't say nothing like it's spelled. So, but in my bio, I have tons of links. I have emails that I send out every week that are encouraging. I have a podcast that's similar to this. We do a lot of, very positive information and informative stuff, practical stuff. And then I also coach. I coach one-on-one with people if they would like that. But I also offer smaller things, like if you just want training, if you just need somebody to help you walk through working out, I can help you with that. Or we do consultations, anything you need. But you can find me on Instagram. That's the easiest place to get in touch with me. And from there, I would just love to help if I can.
Awesome. So sweet, man. Well, hey, appreciate you coming on. And one more question before we go. You live in Utah now. You're from Louisiana.
Yes.
Tell me what's the biggest thing? What's the biggest thing you're geting used to right now, being in Utah versus being a Southern boy? Deep Southern.
I'm from Louisiana, bro. We're got gills. Okay. So we've got gills, and I'm literally living at 6,000 feet right now. I'm a mile above sea level. I'm getting out of breath checking the mail, bro. So, you know what I mean? Like, for somebody who's fit to be totally beat by the altitude for a little while, dude, is terrible. But I'm getting stronger. So now when I go to Louisiana again, it's going to be like I'm cheating. It's like there's just too much air. So
cheat code. Go live up above sea level. No, that's good.
Yeah, man. But it's beautiful here, man. It's beautiful. So I can't complain.
No, it's awesome, man. Well, again, thanks for coming. Guys, if y'all check him out at his Instagram, I'll put all that information in the show notes. And again, what we believe here on this podcast is it's not a question of whether or not you've been called or you've been chosen or whether or not you have a purpose. I believe you do. The question is, are you fit enough? And I believe if we'll do the things that God has set in motion for us to do anyway, we can be. And you can be, and you will be. And I can't wait to talk to you guys on the next episode. See you later.